For our very last story, we have a special one. This one, I decided at the last moment the best way to do it would be... Oh, it's a little faded. That's okay. Some of the lines are a touch faded on this one, and I might have to look at them a little bit closer. But this one was made specifically, I looked it over and read it, and I thought that there was a way to make it a little bit better. And that would be taking every other line or so and feeding it into AI Dungeon and letting it fill in the blanks. So, take a guess which parts of this is AI and which parts of this is just normal fanfic. So this is the start that I seeded it with, the first paragraph of the story. You are a white orange-spined hedgehog walking the snow-filled streets of Westopolis. You are wearing a white skivvy underneath a black jumper and track pantsuits, along with her trademark item of clothing, her favorite black trench coat. On her back is a large backpack, bulging from the amount of Christmas gifts stored within it. Your blue eyes sparkle with joy as you walk down the street, her brown Velcro-strapped sneakers making footprints in the freshly fallen snow. A white cord was visible from her left coat pocket and led to her earphones in her ears. As she walked down the street, humming the tune to a song playing on the small orange iPod concealed in her left coat pocket, the tune sounded exactly like Crush 40's All Hail Shadow. All Hail Shadow Kingdom! You were so happy that you could have danced all night long. The next day at school, your teacher, Mr. Molson, gave you an F for your work in his class. You say, who knew it would this hard to find the blue blur? I didn't know who he was, she says angrily. Well, I did. It's my name, you say defensively. She looks at you with a frown and then walks away from you. Shadow stood on a bridge overlooking a small river which ran outside of the city. He stared down into the river's frozen depths and then into the trees on the other side. He couldn't see far down below the tiny rapids, but he could only imagine how much water there was swirling and spiraling around in them. Stupid humans and their stupid holiday, he thought to himself as he gazed out into the trees. His ears pricked up as he heard the faint tune of Crush 40's All Hail Shadow, all caps. And looked on as the source of the sound was coming from the earphones of an orange-spined hedgehog delivering Christmas gifts to everyone. She even broke into Eggman's base just to give him a new toolbox and $50. The things she did for that hedgehog. As she stepped in front of a house and began to sing, the hedgehog managed to drop the bunch of gifts he was carrying. She has my theme song and is listening to it? Thought Shadow as he saw her approach the hedgehog. He saw her look at the hedgehog with a frown and then give him some of the gifts. Oh my, thank you so much, he cried. Sonic was standing on top of the city's giant Christmas tree, looking over the town as people rushed to get their Christmas shopping done in time. He spotted a white, orange-spined hedgehog nearby. Hurry up, hedgehog, he cried. We have to go stop the blue blur before he ruins Christmas. The hedgehog looked at him with a confused look on his face. Sonic jumped down and walked up to her. You're the one who has been spreading the song Blue Blur throughout the city, aren't you? Yes, and the name's Shadow, not Orange Spine. Yep, she replied as she began to rummage through the bag's contents. She soon pulled out a large blue package with Sonic's name on it. I have to go get this for Sonic. With the fastest hedgehog I know, we have to beat that dumb dog before he causes any more chaos, she cried. I'm not a dog! Sonic opened the package to reveal a handheld gaming console and a few games. It's a new model of the one I had before it, and these games are cool too, he cried. He looked at Shadow with pure joy in his eyes. Cool. Listen, Rouge and the girls are throwing a party at Rouge's club. Do you want to come? He asked. She could hear the music from there, and the idea of going there sounded great. Yeah, sure, I'll meet you there, she said. So, the sound of the music. Sorry. She could hear the music from there, and the idea of going there sounded great. Great, see you soon. Everyone had gathered at Club Rouge for the party, and they all bought their gifts with them. The girls were wearing different elf costumes. Amy's was pink, Shade's was red, Cream's was yellow, and Rouge's was violet. The boys were dressed as Santa Claus, and had each given her something. Shadow gave her a book of fairy tales. Chuck gave her a camera and with a bunch of filters on it. Big gave her a large clock. Okay, I have to break character here for just a brief moment, because... Okay, so Shadow gave her a book of fairy tales, Chuck gave... The boys were dressed as Santa Claus and had given her something. Shadow gave her a book of fairy tales, Chuck gave her a camera with a bunch of filters on it. Big gave her a large clock, or all AI generated. They got big. It's capitalized. I'm not the first person to feed Sonic into this thing, am I? Anyway, you keep going. Gave her a big clock, and Knuckles was wearing a green suit. Tails was dressed as a reindeer. Espio had a Santa hat on. Vector was wearing a Christmas jumper. Charmy had red and green elf hat on. And Santa had a Santa outfit on, minus the beard. They all had gathered in the center of the room with a giant Christmas tree with them, and began handing out presents. She caught sight of Shadow giving her a small black box, and then looked away. I'll open mine later, Dragonfire said. Placing her gift on the nearby table. The party continued, which involved a lot of eating and drinking. The food was amazing, and she found herself eating more than she usually did. So do you celebrate Christmas back home? Sonic asked Dragonfire. She was about to reply when her stomach began to protest. I think I'll just get some food later, she replied. I'm stuffed. After dinner, they all began to head home to continue the party, but she saw that Shadow was looking at her. What? She asked unsure of what he wanted. Do you celebrate Christmas? He asked. She looked at him confused. Yeah, but doesn't snow where I come from, she replied. I live high in the mountains, far from any large settlements. We have a warmer climate, so snow isn't that big of a deal for us. He looked at her with a smile. Hey Sonic, Amy, look where you're standing, Dragonfire called out as Sonic and Amy were saying their goodbyes to their parents. The pair looked up, and then blushed as they saw mistletoe hanging above them. The pair looked up, and then blushed as they saw mistletoe hanging above them. Who's under the mistletoe? Sonic asked, looking around. You, me, and Shadow, Dragonfire replied as Shadow began to slowly step out from beneath it. You're joking. Nope, I'm not. Sonic began to look around nervously. Well, you're joking, aren't you? Sorry, but it seems that way. Everyone in the room cracked up laughing as Shadow just gave off an angry stare. All right, I see the point, he said. You two are so dead. Everyone laughed again as he looked at her, then at the floor. Hey, you haven't opened your presents yet, Rouge said, as she handed 2 parcels over to Dragonfire and her brother. "Oh yeah, I left it all behind in my room," she replied as she opened her presents from her parents and brother. Dragonfire opened the one that had been dropped off on the club's doorstep. Inside was a small orange robot with a remote control. It bared a resemblance to a dragon's head. "Oh, I thought it was a dreidel," she said disappointedly, opening the next one, which is from her father. "It's a remote-controlled Dragonfire." "Now you can open mine," Shadow said as he passed his gift to her. She put the remote control down, and the robot glided to the ground. "Is it mine?" she asked, looking up at him. He nodded. "To be honest, I don't know much about them, so I just Googled one." She opened Shadow's present and gasped as she saw its contents. Inside were 2 CDs, one labeled Shadow the Hedgehog, and the other labeled Lost and Found, Shadow the Hedgehog vocal tracks. "Shadow the Hedgehog? You've got his music?" she asked. "You have my theme song on your iPod." "I'm so sorry. Let me just... one moment." I'm going to go back just a moment. So there were 2 CDs inside, one labeled Shadow the Hedgehog, and the other labeled Lost and Found, Shadow the Hedgehog vocal tracks. "Shadow the Hedgehog, you've got his music?" she asked. "You have my theme song on your iPod, so I figured you'd like the whole soundtrack." She turned to face him and hugged him tightly. He returned the hug. "Thank you," she said. "I love you." "I love you too," he replied as they parted. "Hey, Dragonfire, do you have somewhere to stay the night?" Rouge asked. I don't like to be alone," she said, looking down at her feet. "Don't worry, you're staying with us," Sonic replied as he picked her up and spun her around. Shadow pulled up beside, his bike purring quietly as he stopped. She climbed on and whooped with delight as the bike roared up the street. Shadow stopped outside a fancy hotel in the middle of the city. "This is silly. Why don't we just stay at the hotel where we took care of the EEC spies?" "It's almost the same if you ignore the fancy signs," he said. "I don't mind. It's a nice hotel, and I'm sure they have some suites that aren't used much." Dragonfire jumped off. The robot and its remote moved around in her pocket as she did so. The 2 CDs made a slight noise as they moved up against her iPod in her other pocket. "Night, Shadow. Thanks for the ride," she said, walking towards the door. "Anytime, Flame. See you later," he replied as he drove off in a different direction, heading towards the neighboring city of Kautai. He had one more present to deliver, a big one. He had tried to wrap it for her, as is his way, but it was impossible. He handed it to her with a smile as he drove through a deserted street. Eggman unlocked the door to his base. He had just got back after stopping at Club Rouge. As he was about to go in, he heard the familiar sounds of Shadow's motorbike pull up behind him. He turned around to see the black hedgehog standing there. "Is she here?" he asked. "No, I came straight here. I have something important to tell you." "Hello, Doctor, and Merry Christmas," Shadow replied, handing Eggman a small parcel from his jacket pocket. "Merry Christmas, Shadow, but I thought you'd be spending it with your family." "I'm not normally around to do it. Now are you ready to see what I got?" "So do you like my gift?" Eggman asked, casually as he opened Shadow's present. Inside was a $50 gift $50 gift card for the local hardware store. "A semi-automatic Shadow rifle and 3 boxes of ammunition. You'd better be careful I don't use it on you the next time we meet," Shadow replied. "Huh, I suppose that's okay, I guess. But I figured you'd get something a lot cooler." "Like what?" Eggman shrugged and walked inside as Shadow put his earphones in his ears, selected a track on his black iPod, and hopped on his bike and sped off, humming the tune to Never Turn Back by Infernal. "Well, I guess I'll see you soon, Shadow. I have to go meet the mayor of this city and convince him to let me keep testing on that nerve gas. Merry Christmas."